Good morning. You might have noticed on this channel, if you're a regular viewer, and I have more viewers than subscribers, so please subscribe and like the videos if you like our voice and what we are doing out here to try to level the playing field and let you know how outrageous government outreach and overreach, rather, can destroy lives. Having said that, you may notice also that the trolls have kind of fallen silent recently. They've been a little bit quiet on my site. Sorry, I'm a little croaky. It's pretty early in the morning here. But they're out there, the trolls and the vigilantes. And I know you're out there, folks. And I know you're watching. They're the silent wolves just waiting to gather together and pounce. But they've also been very, very busy in the background. They've been writing to people I know. They have been contacting various organizations. I won't reveal exactly what they've been doing, but they've been arguing a number of things, including I wrote things I didn't write, or I was involved in websites or links or what have you. I don't even know all of them. I haven't been on them that purport to be me. And there was a guy a couple months ago, maybe more than that, more like 6 months ago, who said that they had done on, I think, Telegram or Discus, something like that. There's another one I've forgotten. I've never been a big social media guy myself. As you can see from watching this channel for a long time, I've struggled to kind of edit videos and put things together. It's not my natural forte. I don't even like it. But somebody put a video together on the Dunning-Kruger effect and said I'm an excellent example of that. Of course, I'm also potentially an excellent example of somebody telling you the truth too. But for some reason, all of these people just can't get it through their heads that it's very possible that somebody is innocent. And that's a real problem for them. And I get it. I mean, you're convicted of a crime. I remember a number of years ago, hearing people convicted of crime and saying, yeah, you probably did it. And then I would remind myself that the story I was reading was only one-sided. And it's much easier to believe it if it's only one or two charges. But, then you look in the background, there's this huge number of charges. Well, my background keeps growing in part because these people keep creating it. Okay. Instead of believing the less sexy true story, they want to believe this incredible, fanciful story that they've dreamed up by a snippet here, a little bit of here, a little bit. And then they wildly conflate things. They make incredible assumptions that could be explained in other ways. And if something could be explained logically just as well as something else, they discard it. So we know that these people are out there. We know that they're waiting for an opportunity, and we know that they're taking little bits and pieces of things and contacting business associates, let's just say of mine and others, and attempting to influence them against me and against this channel. And, the only thing I can say about that, folks, is, good luck. But the question here, too, is, for them, I've asked them this because I'm not built like this. I've asked them, what if you find out ultimately that you're wrong? Eventually, I'm going to get to put everything together. I've tried to hold some things from my book because I didn't want to put everything out there, but I've started doing that more and more because my book has been delayed. I'm trying to survive like everybody else is out here. And what are you going to do when you find out that you've made a horse's ass of yourself? What are you going to do about that? Are you going to come out and make as big of a stink about being wrong as you have been right? Okay, I'm thinking about you net predators. I'm thinking of you, Skanking Kyle, and I know you're still out there. And JV Trace, he kind of goes by as part of his Proton, I think it's called Proton Mail account, which is some kind of encrypted app or something like that. These folks have been trolling me for some time. There's now 4 of them that are actively doing it. And of course, we have the most information about Mr. Eric Lind. And I'm waiting to see if there's going to be charges from when the police kicked in my door because of his 3 idiotic things that he incorrectly asserted about me, because there may be litigation following on that. And it's very easy in today's internet to have all kinds of stuff out there. I don't know to what degree any of these 4 created any of this stuff that they're trying to use against me. Recently, I was watching a podcast over the last week. I won't name the name of the podcast, but it has clearly AI generated stuff. The diction is too smooth. It doesn't have the variances of tone and pitch that you would have in a normal human speaking voice. Plus, it says some things that are not quite right, and it repeats lines over and over again. So it's poorly edited at times. And of course, the person in charge of the podcast came on and said, hey, this is not me. This has been out there for a while. It's getting millions of hits. And it isn't me. Okay. So if you can believe that, and you can believe people do AI images and other sorts of things that they create to pretend to be other people, why couldn't you believe this? I know a number of years ago, there was a woman who was in the northwest or northeast here somewhere, I think Connecticut. And suddenly she was being spurned and ignored by all of her friends. And finally she, what gives, and they showed her what gives. And apparently she was featured in a number of pornography sites, like an OnlyFans account, right after it came out. And her head was somehow I'm going to use the wrong terms because I don't know, but like photoshopped onto a much younger body. She was in her 40s and a woman of means. And she did some digging and hired a private investigator and found out that a group of teenage boys at a prep school in California was using her facial likeness, which they liked, and putting it on young bodies and having a hell of a time creating porn for their own enjoyment and sharing with their friends. And she actually flew out there to this private school and talked to the headmaster. She arranged it in advance and talked to the boys. She said, I don't want them expelled. I just want them to understand how it can destroy a life. And this is exactly what they're attempting to do to me. It never occurs to them, apparently, nor do they care, because they're so interested in taking me down that I'm a voice for the voiceless. I put my reputation, myself, my name on the line because I know that what they're doing to people at the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force with their proactive stings, in other words, their fishing expeditions, are destroying lives needlessly. And as I've said, even if you think that there was an actual person going after someone, like these vigilantes set people up, what's the best way to deal with it before they did anything? Destroying and humiliating them? How well has that worked? Has that curbed crime statistics? Maybe we need to try a different approach like we did with trying to incarcerate ourselves out of the drug epidemic of the 70s and 80s to finally coming around later and 90s, right? The zero tolerance coming around to say, this isn't working. Let's try something else. And lo and behold, loving diversion programs actually work better. So I've got both sides of the equation where I'm talking about there are actual innocent people who are destroyed and a more productive way, not to mention the ways that they should be working for children. All right. I've said over and over again, you care about children so much, do you? Why don't you develop a inner city program for inner city youth? This Koopa High guy, I think, is a black dude. He was featuring me on his program. I couldn't get through the whole thing, so I don't know what he said about me. But that would be a good black role model, would be wonderful. Why don't you work for Boy Scout troops or Girl Scout troops? Why don't you work out there doing the hard work? That's hard work, folks. Sitting with a kid who has a learning disability and really working with them, trying to understand something and seeing the light come into their eyes when they finally get it. That's such a thrill. That's so exciting seeing that. Why don't you do that instead? Oh no. Instead you say, we're for the children. It's all about the children. If we just save one child. So what it's really about is the hunt. It's really about setting the trap and patting yourself on the back that you're warrior hunters, cleaning up the streets. That's what it's about for you. Public approbation, looking like the good guys, begging out there for money. Okay, that's what it's really about. And then the hypocritical stance of hiding. Okay, Net Predators is so good. They've invested so much time and energy into researching and hiding their persona so that they can attack other people who are out there. It reminds me of this speech by the much famous speech by Theodore Roosevelt, which has like one, it's, oh my God, this speech is long, pages and pages and pages. But the one quote that always gets, and I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know exactly, always gets out there is, the credit belongs to the person in the arena. He said man, I'll say person in the arena who's fighting the good fight. He's got dirt and grime and, gets up after being kicked a number of times. That's the person gets the credit, not the guy in the stands who's the Monday morning quarterback. Not the guy who says, well, I would have done this, well, you shouldn't have done this. Or worse yet, is the naysayer wagging his finger, thinking he knows the whole details. And when you tell him he doesn't have the whole details, then they demand that you put the whole details out. They're right there. If you don't tell me what I want to hear or want to know, then I'm going to just continue to go after you. Okay. When I make an ass of you, then you'll know. And you better be out there being just as vociferous, just as loud and obnoxious. But you know what you always do when we bring home the receipts? Quietly scuttle away like roaches, hiding under the rock again. Quiet. You never say, or you make some mealy mouth, I guess I wasn't right, and then gone. Okay? Koopa High himself has apologized to me a couple of times, and then he's right back on the attack. He learns another feature and then makes another mistake by going too far with what he supposedly learned. Okay? One of the most recent things that they've been saying is that I was terminated from a job because I was trying to go after children, which is a half truth. There was children part of my job, okay, which I said to my bosses, due to my conviction, I shouldn't be in charge of that. Not because I didn't trust me, but because it would bring problems to them. And of course, when the problems came, they threw me under the bus and then drove the bus back and forth across me and then got rid of me. Okay. So I was punished for doing what they told me to do, even after I'd warned them that this would not work. All right. Of course, that's a distinction without a difference for your average and ordinary troll because they know something, right? Just like their idiotic argument that what they say recently. There's so many of them; it's hard to keep them all straight. Oh, they said I've got your transcript, and you're lying. They never told me where I was lying, though, in the transcript. So I had to explain to them that there are things that do not show up in the transcript. The transcript is what happened at a trial or a hearing, okay, in court, that is officially typed into it, right? That's what a transcript is. So at the point in the transcript where the judge says, I'm not going to allow that into evidence, there's no more said about it in the transcript. That doesn't mean it didn't exist, right? I mean, it's so obvious and idiotic that these folks keep getting it wrong. All right. But they'll nitpick one or two little things that I say or misstate because I'm doing this extemporaneously. I don't have any notes most of the time. I don't type it up. I don't like a script. I just don't have time to do that. Right. So this is a sort of thing that they continue to do over and over again, and they're dedicated to taking me down instead of dedicated to what this site is about, which is, again, exposing what the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force does, which is most of their stings are setups. Most of their stings are not setups for the bad guys. It's creating a crime where there wouldn't have been one absent police interference. That's the point. And hopefully they will get that eventually, and we'll get our apologies out there because you need to hear exactly what's happening. No doubt these people do good things in some ways, but they do a whole lot more shitty things than the good. Have a good day.